I mean, it's very interesting. It really is about how I want to hear that story again. By the way, that you told. I think that's just amazing. And also, you have to say what an alonka is because I don't know how I'm Ghana. I don't know the word you just said. Is that a Ghana word?
Alonka.
Alonka. So the alonka is the little buckets they used to measure tomatoes and things in the market.
Okay, that's why.
So it's smaller than
the regular
buckets. Everybody does it, even how small it is, regardless of how small it is.
Yeah.
So so let me tell the story.
Yeah.
So I was telling you about my husband, who is someone who feels very comfortable doing any role, whether it's considered a role for men or women, and about his grandmother who brought him up. And she was a tough Ghana woman who believed that all children were the same. Every child in her house, once you eat, you must learn how to cook. And she had a system. When you were 6, you learn how to wash your socks, and she will inspect the clothes on the line and unpeg all the ones that don't reach the standard. And all the children who grew up in her home are very competent about anything, whether they are boys or girls. And so my husband have these uncles, they are tall, they are big, and they can cook, and they can play the guitar, and they can be tough men also. And so we need to bring up our boys, because they are humans, to be able to do all the tasks. She would say, once you're human, you need to be able to do all these tasks. You can choose not to do them at one point in your life and pay someone else to do it. But you need to know how to do it and know how to do it well. And that's how we need to bring up both our boys and our girls, so that they can live with each other well and partner with each other well because they are competent.
Yeah. I think it also applies in relationships. I mean, my son is about to be 22 in a couple of weeks. And I remember a few years ago, we're having a dispute because he wanted to borrow some money from me to take a girl out. And I was like, how the hell dare you? You can't actually take a girl out unless you are the one paying for the clothes she's going to wear, the makeup she's going to put on her face, the travel she's going to take to get to you, the food or whatever activities you're going to do there.
Lots of people will not agree.
Otherwise, what business do you have interfering with somebody's daughter's life? So what, her parents should pay for the clothes and the makeup and everything, and then I should pay for the food that you feed. And what do you pay for? And it was like a big thing, we had a big argument about it, and I would keep doing it. And every time we'd say anything, I'd just, like a friend, I'd be like, did you? And he'd be like, yes. Because my very thing was, okay, if you're going to ride bicycles to the park, then ride your bicycle to her house, pick her up, make sure her bicycle actually works, then ride your bicycles to the park. If she needs ice cream, you buy the ice cream because you have interrupted her day-to-day schedule. And now that he's in his 20s, I feel like he gets it.
Yeah.
Because I see more and more, even when people invite him out, he's like, okay, well, where are we going? Is there a purpose? What's the point? What are we getting out? He's not just getting up and going for the sake of it, and he doesn't interfere in other people's schedules for the sake of it. He realizes, I'm stealing 3 hours of this person's day. Actually, if I'm inviting, these are the things I'm willing to do. And he checks with people, are you willing to come? I can't pay for this. I can't offer this. And when I overhear it now, I realize, and the interesting thing is we talk about how we can change our children as though it would take 50 years, but it only takes 8. It only takes 8. No matter what age the person is, as long as they're under 25, it takes 8 years. Which means that about 8 years' time, we can all influence a new generation to be able to create that kind of impact and to be more inclusive. And I think you said earlier that there's a huge difference between the younger generation and the older one. Yeah, but it's such an unnecessary difference. But a lot of those differences come from the information, like Instagram, the information they're receiving. And if these digital tools are this young and they've managed to change those children, then I guess what is it that makes us think that we can't do the same in that amount of time alongside that technology? And I know we're going to talk about impact and ways to shake it up, but I just want to add this last point. This morning I saw that in Singapore, they've added a new bill that for adults over 40, because of the change to the world through AI and stuff, they're now going to fund for adults over 40 to go back to school to study for free, because whatever they learned when they were in university is now
it's not uploaded.
Wow.
And if we think about impact, or we think about equality and going beyond gender, I think that's a really good example, right? So what can we do to acknowledge that there is this group of people who are now, unfortunately, through no cause of their own, totally different to either what they hoped to be or just what they should be, and how do we work together to move that forward? So I don't know, but that story of the grandmother really made me think of that.
So breaking barriers means that we certainly have to be intentional about the way we do things now, right? So how do we raise our boys? How do we raise our children Okay.
How do you raise our girls?
How do you raise,
As well.
that's why I said children, right? How do you raise our boys? How do you raise our children? How do you raise our girls? We need to raise them, girls, to understand that you can practically do anything.
Yeah.
You know, you can go and study mathematics as a girl, and you can grow up to become a mathematician. You can go and learn robotics as a girl, and it's fine. You don't have to go and learn business because you're a girl, right? Because most of the time it's like, oh, we're afraid of math. So, you know, girls don't do math. Boys are the ones that study math. But they were all born from the same home. Give them the same foundation, and they'll get there. So we need to be very intentional about it as we move, right? And for immediate, we need to be intentional about making sure that, and we talked about it earlier, trying to make sure that we support people. We identify people and we support people. We all work in corporates, and we see it. We see it when you are doing your performance reviews. You see it clearly. You just give KPIs and you would know those who are delivering and those who are not. And those who are not delivering and who can sell practically anything, you know, but for their performance. Okay, so that is when we begin to identify people and build them up and see where the weaknesses are, as you said. And then, you know, we are all not the same because our circumstances were not the same. And so people carry a lot of baggage, right? But the baggages that we carry along, we don't see it on our faces. And so you just can't assume.
Very true.
You know, so we just have to make sure that we are very careful with the way we work with our teams. So I do that a lot with my team. I make it a point to understand where you are, right? And just try to understand, okay, especially when I'm doing KPI, when we're doing KPIs, I ask, this is what we want to do next year. We plan our goals, our objectives, and the things we want to do the following year, what we want to accomplish. And then we share it among ourselves. So I say, is there any reason why these things cannot be done? You know, well, yeah, you know, I have a baby at home, I cannot get to work at this time. Okay, so can you work from home? Are you disturbed when you work from home? We need to find reasons. I can't work from home when my kids are home. So I'll go to work and I rather work at home when they are in school. Right? So I ask. But some people can work when their kids are home. So I ask, and we make sure that we adjust. And then bring people up to speed. Bring people, you know, some people really want to learn. They just haven't had that opportunity. And so how do we intentionally do that? And that is impact investing. So impact investing is not just investing for the hell of it, right? So, and you cannot say that you are impact and so you are not going to make profit. In fact, the heart of impact investing is profit making, but sensible profit making, right? So you have to make a financial return and also make impact. So when I have two deals that I'm looking at, I want to look at the deals. I want to make profit, all right, but I want to look at a deal that is not going to lay off workers, but actually recruit more people. So that's a difference. It is not any weird thing that was cornered somewhere. So the intentionality behind you putting the money in the company and what you want to achieve out of it is what impact investing is. And that is also the impact you are talking about. If you want to move the world, you know, to look more not only about profit making, then we need to look at the other impact that the organizations are able to achieve in our lives. Because what is an organization without humans?
Very true.
Yeah, so to add to that, for Deal Source Africa, for instance, if we have a program coming up, let's say our deal rooms, where we connect businesses to investors, sometimes if you just look at the people that are signing up for a deal room, you realize that it's skewed towards a particular group of people. Now it's up to us to ensure that there is inclusivity and we can use Deal Source Africa as a tool. It's up to us to look for where are the young people, not just the young people for being young people, where are the females, not just being females, but do they meet an investor's criteria? Where are the right people who meet these things, but probably are not aware that there is such an opportunity? Now, when we find them, we actually go to the next step of seeing who can help them. So we have pre-deal room trainings where we connect businesses to transaction advisors. So the question is, if there is a female-led business, there is a female funder, or a business, since you're looking at impact investing, that is tailored towards helping the society and they meet all these criteria, if we find you, we connect you to a transaction advisor who will work with you. Now, another aspect of it is that with some of the transaction advisors that we have those that have an understanding that if I'm dealing with a female entrepreneur, probably I might not be able to get her at any time of the day. I need to adjust my time to work with her maybe in the evenings, to work with her at dawn. We would love for these people to blend in, but sometimes you can't help it. That's the time that will work for them. So I think that for us, we look at, let's not just do deals, reach out to the right people, reach out to those that meet the criteria. But at the end of the day, you get that whole inclusive bowl. Everybody is taken care of. I think that also helps.
Very true.
I was going to share something about my mum. My mum is 70-something. But she looks like a 50-year-old. And I remember in the 90s, I'm giving away my age now, when everyone was like, computers, tech, IT. We were like, Mum, you need to get on there. We sent her to a course. She trained herself on how to do computers, Word, Excel, internet, search. And up to now, she sends me information from the internet,
Wow.
But most of my uncles and aunties around that age, her peers, they are totally illiterate because they didn't get on that train.
Yes.
But imagine if we use impact investing to really transform all these 450 million African youth that we need to employ within the next decade, right? What would it take for catalytic capital, impact investing capital, to really shape young people's mindsets? That's a huge issue. The soft skills, the confidence we're talking about for women. How would we use that kind of opportunity to really reach millions of people, to create a pathway for them to enable themselves, right? Because the jobs aren't there, but they need to enable themselves and live their lives in a way that is, decent and sustainable.
So if you think about it, it's about increasing the supply of capital. One of the biggest reasons why African businesses aren't growing as much as they should to employ people is because they don't have access to capital. Across the continent, we have a 331 billion SME financing gap. In Ghana, it's 5 billion. So where's this money going to come from? Some of it has to come locally. And the pensions industry is one industry that in Ghana and across Africa is growing. But we also need new products and services that don't already exist that can meet the needs of women and all these other entrepreneurs we have who need financing, and that can meet their needs and yet deliver a profit, because it is investing, it's not charity. And that calls for innovation. Innovation has a little bit of risk associated with it. And that's where you need catalytic capital, which is capital that is willing to take on more risk. So people who are willing to say, let's come up with a way we can work with women, give them more patient capital, and if we do A, B, C, D, we believe that we will get back our money, plus the return that we would have had if we just went investing in the typical sort of businesses we have that are willing to take that risk. And we're beginning to see more of that, and we're hoping that there will be more. We did a study that looked over 15 years at all the SME financing programs in Ghana and tried to identify which ones were actually catalytic and why. And they are the ones that were flexible. You can't create your program in a boardroom, take it to the market, and expect that it will work. There must be flexibility, so when you take it to the market and then you realize, this won't work, the women don't want this, you can tweak that feature. And especially international development agencies, I won't mention names, but we all know who they are, tend to, because of the way the programs are designed, be a little rigid. So we need to create adaptive programs so that when they go into the field, they can accomplish things. Development finance institutions need to stop saying all our technical assistance is only for people in our pipeline that we want to invest in. But we won't invest in first-time funds or managers, meaning we won't invest in anything innovative. So someone else make that investment and will come in as the second player. We need to stop that because the truth is that they have the expertise to very smartly do innovative investments, and that risk can be managed. And so that's one of the things we're advocating for, and it's exciting to see Zenari and to see Savannah's funds that are really innovative in the way that they have structured, so they can meet the needs of the businesses we have right now.
So, okay, sorry.
I would add that so impact investing also helps us break those barriers because it's about doing business the right way and not just for profit and also not just for the good of society, but it's doing business in a way that ensures long-term survival, long-term sustainability. Because if your business is all about chasing after the financials, chasing after the profits, the big monies, but the environment is being destroyed, the same environment where probably you are getting your raw materials, your employees who help you create that money are breathing in certain air. If you are polluting that environment, a time will come when their health is affected. You will not get good. It eventually affects your productivity. And so that profit also begins to go down. Best case, you have to spend more money to correct the wrongs that you have made. And so that is why if we start focusing on impact as early as possible, it means that we have a better chance of creating sustainable businesses, which in the long run is also better for us financially. And so that's why it's very important that every enterprise, every business, every investor should be focused about impact as well as making the financial return. And that we need to understand that one does not eliminate the other, but actually one impact actually helps to boost the financial returns. But the other side of it also is that it allows all businesses, regardless of size, location, whatever factors that makes them apart, set them apart from others, to have a fair chance of accessing the capital that they need. And we cannot live in a world that has businesses all at large scale, a certain scale, or being run a certain way. We need those differences, we need those dynamics. At the end of the day, the small ones become suppliers to the bigger players. So we need all of them. With impact investing, it allows us to come up with innovative products, like Amma said, that allows us in various ways to address the varied needs of these different segments of the market. And that is why it is very important. I remember for Zenari Capital, we are trying to set up our first fund, which is the Zenari Women's Enterprise Fund, which is going to be focused on women. And we had an investor ask us this question: why our investment range is so wide? So usually most investors have a minimum amount that they want to invest and then a maximum side. Why seemed quite, and we have to explain that because our target is women. And for women enterprises, in as much as we also want to invest in enterprises that are owned by men, insofar as they have an impact on women, as in either employing or procuring from them, we are fine. But we find that for most women enterprises, because we are very risk averse, you even need to convince them to accept investment. So they are comfortable starting off at a certain small size, and then once you win their trust, then they are happy to do more. So if we want to limit ourselves to, okay, we want to do, let's say, 5 million and above, and we are in Africa, this is a developing economy, how many of our businesses can be at that level? And this is why we need to open up to more of the venture capital funds, impact investment funds, that are able to work with more flexible structures to embrace all these businesses, and then together we can grow them to that level.
I actually agree. I think sorry, he just went, oh no. I just want to say, no, I actually agree because, okay, so from the Ladies Entrepreneurship Club perspective, we don't give funds, right? And, earlier I was saying, I actually tell my members, I don't even want them to go anywhere near for other people's money. I want them to understand what it is first what they need to understand themselves. Yeah, because entrepreneurship is a journey to self-discovery. Your personality is going to be your company's first culture.
Yes.
Until something happens professionally and you realize that actually you being personally risk averse and your company being risk averse doesn't work. So your company's culture needs to change and you need to split from it. Until you get to that place where your personality and your company's personality shift, you are your company in theory, just not legally, financially, right? So a lot of people have to go through that, you know, and when you're a woman, you have to figure out how to be a mother, sister, wife, and an entrepreneur, and how the freedoms that you have are the freedoms your company can have. The flexibility you have is the maximum flexibility your company can have. And until that happens, your company doesn't even have a culture. It's in its building steps, right? And yes, you might be making money along the way, but once that kind of infrastructure is set, you've got your first set of staff, you know what you sell, why you sell it for this price, why you sell it, who your customers are, and you're able to rinse and repeat it every day so that when you go to investors, you're able to honestly say, actually, based on our, you know, projections, based on our growth, this is truly what we can give you, while I'm also being a mother, wife, sister, right? So I discourage people from going for money. And the reason is exactly what you just pointed out, and I think that it's a pipeline issue. So when, you know, you asked then about how we can do that, I think it's about actually, there are too many people getting the money to do capacity building, and that really annoys me. But, because they don't do it properly. But, there is a strong need for capacity building, so the intention behind the impact investing into those capacity building spaces is correct. The issue is that I think the criteria and the impact analysis of those people who profess to do capacity building, they need to be audited like so hard, right? Because they're not creating a strong enough pipeline of people, of entrepreneurs, of founders, of business owners, of executives, female, male, whatever, that come into your spaces, right? So that's why you're not having enough people who trust you enough.
Yeah.
Because it's not you they don't trust, not the investor, it's actually themselves. They do not trust themselves to pay back. And like you said, the women will sit up if they haven't paid one payment. So how on earth will they take 5 million? Wow, breastfeed, it's just not going to happen. They're scared, right? So I think one of the biggest ways to break down those barriers is actually in the capacity building space, but more in how people in the capacity building space, how their success is measured, how it's assessed, and how much they're able and allowed to renew, right? So just because someone says, oh, we train 50 women on how to use Excel, why? What have they done with Excel? What have they done? Like, what is the benefit to their society because they know how to use Excel? Because actually maybe it's not even Excel, or maybe maybe you don't get the impact that's supposed to come from their use of Excel in the first place. So, you know, so if we don't do that enough, of course we'll have loads of people. I mean, MasterCard Foundation often throw money all over the floor. Sometimes when I see people who are funded by MasterCard Foundation to do training, must be honest, I'm like, I don't even understand the strategy behind this funding, because I see that, of course, that organization wants to provide impact, but from an academic perspective, the rigor that comes to us as universities, I mean, I'm an Associate Dean of Learning and Teaching, the rigor that comes to us, and then the rigor that comes to them, I'm like, are we doing the same thing?
I guess it's about how do you measure success?
No, it's about how do you insist that the trainer that's training...
No, how do you measure the success of the training?
Exactly.
If you measure the success in business transformation, so business came in at X, and now 6 months after training they're at Y. They now have increased their revenue, their staff retention has improved, their data tracking has improved.
They're more
it's
investable.
real change
Exactly.
that can be measured in an actual business.
Exactly.
And so last year the ecosystem came together to form something called the Enterprise Support Organization Collaborative. The number one challenge they identified was poor quality.
For themselves. They themselves,
And that was,
Yes.
that was
So we did that study.
Andy, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
And so we're piloting a quality improvement program for the enterprise support organizations themselves. They did diagnoses, and part of it was that they had not created their own programs. They were chasing project financing from international development agencies, very short-term projects.
RFPs, designing Washington.
Yes.
That have nothing to do with our local context.
All of them came in with a program they thought they wanted to improve their quality. At the end, they all decided we actually need to create a new program.
Thank you.
We need to create our own program
Yes.
that, based on where we sit, I sit in Damongo in this region in Ghana, and these are the needs here, and this is my capability as a enterprise support organization. So this is the niche I can add value for. And I'm going to create a program that I can run year on year, collect data and improve, and move businesses from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it was the fair. I mean, that's not what we had set out to do, but that was the result of the diagnosis.
That was about 2
Where
years ago.
Everybody
Yeah.
recognized that I need to create my own program with my own learning, because that's the only sphere that I will have control to tweak things until I have the quality I want to see.
And based on the needs of the local context,
Exactly.
right? So that
And
comes
then
from
I
their
need to
constituents.
track the data on how my businesses are actually doing, and then I, as a business, need to be a better business.
Yes.
Because I am also a business,
Exactly.
so I need to track the data on how I am doing. Because if I don't do these things, it's very hard for me to help someone else do them.
And also, the other side, which I hope came out of it, is also be willing to lose their funding, because, with the higher education space, because we charge, or because, sometimes in the UK, for example, students can have student finance, right? They can have student loan. But because our stakeholders we see them as our key customers, it's important to us that we realize that they will vote with their wallets.
Yeah.
Right, they vote with their feet. Now, in this particular space, it's often these major organizations, international organizations, like you said, out in Washington, who are providing the finance. And, there comes that whole conflict of interest where it's like, I kind of need the money. So if they say I can't teach Excel, I can't teach Excel. But I know I should teach Excel because the issue is books, right? So it's kind of like being prepared to split, because what I have found is a lot of times with the Ladies International Club, people say to me, but Tanisha, you charge this, you charge that, so you charge a lot. And I'm like, but people pay.
Yes.
Because they want to grow, and they
Tanisha,
see their friends growing.
Part of the diagnosis says you must charge.
You must charge.
Even if you don't charge the full economic
It gives
cost.
commitment.
So
Yeah.
all of them, for these programs they are designing, are charging.
Right.
And they are charging in places where entrepreneurs are stressed.
Yeah.
So they need to charge something that people can afford.
Yes.
But it's a different kind of decision for the entrepreneur, because once they pay, then they become a customer.
Yes.
So
They also
when you
value it, and they value it,
They
yeah.
value it, they show up, and when they come and you give them something that's trash, they say
They
so.
say so.
And so you know that it's trash.
Exactly.
If you give it to them for free, they come and then they feel like, oh, he worked so hard to raise his money.
Let me
to
not
do
tell him
this.
it was bad.
Let me not hurt his feelings. And so they don't tell you
Yeah.
that it actually didn't help them. And then finally, you must solve problems businesses have. Real problems.
problems.
Not imaginary
No,
problems.
what's the problems? Yeah.
And often all these problems come about because we are more focused on counting the numbers. Okay, so we run this program where we trained 100 businesses, including 15 women, 20 youth, whatever. But that is not the impact. It's like, what value is the training? So you find a lot of our MSMEs who have undergone whatever training, so far as it was free.
But you don't see it.
And they're still in the same position they were 5 years ago.
In this country, you find their names there.
Yeah.
These businesses never mature. They never move to the next stage because they just attend trainings just for the sake of it, because maybe at the end of the day I'll get some free grants or I'll get some recognition. But that is it. But when it is something that is really tailored to addressing their real needs, and this is where they are also more interested in or willing to pay for it, even if it's not the full cost like we said. But once you are paying something, you have skin in the game, and you value it better, and you even want to apply that learning to your. So I think that really should be the way we should all be aiming to go, not just offering free because the money came in free, or we have this big plans of touching 1 million lives in Africa.